teacher takes class photo on field trip, zooms in and sees an extra child no one recognizes. Ms. Abigail Lang adjusted her navy cardigan and checked her watch for the third time in 5 minutes. The autumn breeze carried the scent of fallen leaves across the parking lot of Everwood Natural History Center as she scanned the crowd of 12 seventh graders huddled near the bus. "Everyone have their notebooks?" she called out, her voice carrying that perfect blend of warmth and authority that had made her Westridge Middle School's most requested teacher 3 years running. A chorus of, "Yes, Ms. Lang," echoed back, punctuated by the rustling of backpacks and the occasional adolescent giggle. This field trip had been in the works for months. The Everwood Center had just unveiled their new interactive geology exhibit, complete with a simulated earthquake chamber that Ms. Lang knew would captivate even her most distracted students. As a teacher who believed learning happened best beyond classroom walls, she'd fought hard for the budget approval, even contributing from her own modest salary to ensure every child could attend. "All right, everyone," she announced, clapping her hands twice, her signature attention-getter. "Before we head inside, let's go over the buddy system again. No one wanders off alone, understood? Jenna and Maddie, you're together. Tyler and Damon." She continued pairing students as they nodded dutifully. From the corner of her eye, she noticed Eli Ward standing slightly apart from the group, his slender frame nearly swallowed by an oversized hoodie despite the mild weather. Unlike the others who fidgeted with excitement, Eli remained perfectly still, his eyes fixed on something in the distance. "Eli?" Ms. Lang approached him gently. "You'll be paired with Marcus today. Is that okay?" The boy startled slightly before nodding, never quite meeting her gaze. In her 15 years of teaching, Ms. Lang had encountered all types of students, but Eli remained something of an enigma even after 2 months into the school year. Brilliant but withdrawn, he turned in immaculate assignments but rarely spoke unless directly addressed. "Great," she smiled, though her eyes lingered on him a moment longer. "Marcus, make sure you guys stick together, okay?" The field trip unfolded like a well-rehearsed play. Ms. Lang led her students through the winding corridors of the center, pausing to let them marvel at the towering dinosaur skeletons and interactive displays about tectonic plates. She watched with satisfaction as even the most phone-addicted preteens found themselves captivated by the science surrounding them. "Ms. Lang, Ms. Lang!" Tyler called out, his voice echoing in the cavernous exhibition hall. "The earthquake simulator is open now. Can we go?" She consulted her watch and nodded. "Everyone finish your notes on the volcanic rock formation first, then we can head over." As the students scribbled hastily in their notebooks, Ms. Lang found herself watching Eli again. Unlike his classmates who worked in chattering pairs, he stood alone by a display about fault lines, scribbling with unusual intensity. When she walked past, she glimpsed what looked less like notes, and more like a detailed drawing, a house with what appeared to be a separate structure in the back. Curious, but respectful of his privacy, she moved on without comment. The earthquake simulator proved to be the highlight of the trip, with students emerging wide-eyed and laughing after experiencing the carefully calibrated tremors. Even Mrs. Patel, one of the parent chaperones who had been checking her phone most of the day, admitted it was actually pretty cool. By 3 o'clock, notebooks were filled and gift shop souvenirs purchased. Ms. Lang gathered her students near the impressive stone entrance of the center, its carved archway featuring fossils found in the region. "Everyone, let's get a group photo before we head back to school," she suggested, fishing her camera from her tote bag. "Mrs. Patel, would you mind?" The parent nodded, taking the camera while Ms. Lang arranged the students in a line beneath the center's logo. "Squeeze in a little tighter," she directed, moving Tyler from one end to the middle where he couldn't make bunny ears behind anyone's head. "Perfect. Say fossilization," Ms. Lang called out, joining the end of the line next to Eli. "Fossilization," the class shouted with varying degrees of enthusiasm as Mrs. Patel snapped several photos in quick succession. On the bus ride back to school, Ms. Lang felt that particular satisfaction that came with a successful educational outing. Her students chattered excitedly about their favorite exhibits, comparing notes and small treasures from the gift shop. Even Eli seemed less tense, though he remained quiet, staring out the window as suburban landscapes gave way to the familiar streets of their small town. After dismissal, Ms. Lang stayed late in her classroom, organizing permission slips and receipts from the day. The school halls emptied, leaving that distinctive silence that settled over educational buildings after hours, a quiet tinge with echoes of the day's lessons and laughter. She loved this time, when she could reflect on her teaching without interruption. At home that evening, Ms. Lang kicked off her sensible shoes and made herself a cup of chamomile tea. Living alone in her modest two-bedroom house had its advantages. No one complained when she spread student work across the entire dining table, or when she talked to herself while grading papers. She opened her laptop, connecting her camera to download the day's photos. The school website featured a Classroom Adventures section, and she wanted to share the field trip highlights before tomorrow's classes. As the images transferred, she sipped her tea and reviewed her lesson plans for the following day. When the photos finished downloading, she clicked through them, smiling at the captured moments, Jenna's awestruck expression before the T-Rex skeleton, Marcus and Damon pretending to be caught in amber like prehistoric insects, and finally, the group shot beneath the entrance archway. She enlarged it to make sure everyone's faces were visible before uploading. That's when she saw him. At first, it was just a flicker at the edge of her perception, something not quite right about the image. She counted automatically, 1, 2, 3, 12 students plus herself. 13 people. But she'd only taken 12 students on the trip. Ms. Lang leaned closer to the screen, her tea forgotten. At the far end of the line, partially shadowed by the stone archway, stood a boy she didn't recognize. He wore a dark hoodie similar to Eli's, his face half hidden but clearly visible enough to see that he wasn't one of her students. He stood awkwardly, slightly apart from the group as if he'd slipped into the frame at the last second. "That's impossible," she whispered to her empty living room. She pulled up the trip's permission slips on her tablet, counting names and checking faces against the photo. 12 students. Only 12 had boarded the bus that morning. Only 12 had been counted, repeatedly, throughout the day. Mrs. Patel and Mr. Gonzalez, the parent chaperones, had helped with head counts multiple times. Yet there he was, a 13th child. Heart racing, Ms. Lang zoomed in further on the boy's face. The image quality was good, and despite the shadow from his hood, his features were clear enough, a boy of about 12 or 13, with a solemn expression and what looked like a fading bruise near his jaw. Her computer pinged, startling her. The facial recognition software she used to tag students for the yearbook committee had activated automatically when she uploaded the photos. Names appeared beneath each identified face in the group shot: Jenna Martinez, Tyler Washington, Marcus Lee. And beneath the unknown boy's face, Noah Mercer. Ms. Lang stared at the name, a chill creeping up her spine despite the warmth of her home. She'd been teaching at Westridge for 5 years and had never had a student named Noah Mercer. She would have remembered. She opened her browser and typed the name into the search bar, adding their town name of Pinehaven. The results loaded, and her teacup slipped from suddenly numb fingers, shattering on the hardwood floor. Staring back at her from the top search result was the same face from her photograph, beneath a headline from 2 years ago. Search continues for missing Pinehaven boy Noah Mercer, 11. Ms. Lang's hands trembled as she clicked on the article, her tea spreading unnoticed across the floor. According to the report, Noah had disappeared after a neighborhood dispute escalated, with police eventually classifying it as a runaway case when weeks of searching yielded no results. The case had gone cold, with occasional updates marking somber anniversaries of his disappearance. Yet somehow, this missing boy had appeared in her class photo today, older but unmistakable. Ms. Lang glanced back at the group shot, specifically at the position where Noah stood. He was at the far end of the line, just a few feet from where Eli Ward had been standing. Her mind raced, trying to recall any moment during the day when she noticed an extra child, any headcount that didn't add up, any strange incident. Nothing came to mind. She looked again at Noah's face in the photograph, at his solemn expression and the shadow across his features. Then she noticed something else, something that made her blood run cold. While everyone else in the photo was looking directly at the camera, Noah Mercer was looking sideways, his gaze fixed intently on Eli Ward. And if she wasn't mistaken, there was fear in that gaze. "What happened to you, Noah?" she whispered to the image on her screen. "And how did you end up in my photograph when no one saw you there?" The house creaked around her as if in response, and outside, the wind picked up, rattling the windows like someone desperate to be let in. Sleep eluded Ms. Lang that night. She tossed in her bed, the image of Noah Mercer's face haunting her every time she closed her eyes. By dawn, dark circles framed her eyes, but her mind buzzed with clarity. She needed to report what she'd found. But how? What exactly would she say? "Hello, police? A missing child appeared in my field trip photo, but none of us saw him there." It sounded delusional even to her own ears. Over coffee, she made her decision. She created an anonymous email account and attached the enhanced photo, sending it to the detective listed in the old news articles about Noah's disappearance, Detective Sharon Reeves. Her message was simple. "I believe this is a recent photo of Noah Mercer. Please investigate." Throughout her morning classes, Ms. Lang struggled to focus. Her gaze kept drifting to Eli Ward's desk, watching the boy who never quite connected with his classmates. Was it her imagination, or did he seem more on edge today? His pencil tapped in irregular rhythm against his notebook, and twice she caught him staring out the window instead of at the lesson. During lunch break, her phone chimed with an email notification. Detective Reeves had responded, urgently requesting a meeting with whoever sent the photo. Ms. Lang hesitated but replied that she could meet after school hours at the local police station. "Ms. Lang?" A voice startled her as she locked her classroom that afternoon. Principal Davis stood in the hallway, his brow furrowed. "Are you all right? You seemed distracted during the staff meeting." "Just tired from the field trip." She offered a weak smile. "Those 7th graders have more energy than I can keep up with these days." He nodded, unconvinced. "The parents were thrilled with the photos you posted. Though," he paused, "Mrs. Patel mentioned something odd about the group shot. Said she could have sworn there were only 12 kids when she took it." Ms. Lang's pulse quickened. "The lighting at the entrance was tricky," she said carefully. "Creates strange shadows sometimes." After an agonizing commute, Ms. Lang found herself sitting across from Detective Reeves, a stern-faced woman with silver-streaked hair and eyes that missed nothing. "So you found Noah Mercer in your class photo," Reeves stated flatly after introductions. "A boy who's been missing for 2 years." Ms. Lang pushed her phone across the table, the photo enlarged. "I've checked and rechecked the class roster. He wasn't supposed to be there." Reeves studied the image, her expression unchanging. "We've run this through our facial recognition software. It's a 97% match for Noah Mercer, accounting for age progression." She leaned forward. "Ms. Lang, no one saw this child on your trip?" "No one," she whispered. "We did head counts constantly. I had 12 students. Only 12. Yet there he is." Reeves tapped the screen. "And here's where it gets stranger. His parents swear they've never seen this jacket he's wearing. The blue one with the torn sleeve." Ms. Lang peered closer. Indeed, Noah's navy hoodie had a small tear at the right cuff. Something nagged at her memory, something about another hoodie. "We've reopened the case," Reeves continued. "Noah's parents are devastated and hopeful all at once. They've been living in limbo for 2 years. What happened back then?" Ms. Lang asked. "The articles mentioned a neighborhood dispute?" Reeves sighed. "Noah's father accused a neighbor of stealing equipment from his contracting business. Things got heated, public accusations were made. The next day, Noah vanished. We investigated everyone, of course, but found nothing conclusive." "And you thought he ran away?" "That was our working theory. He'd left a note saying he couldn't take it anymore. But he was only 11, most runaways that age are found quickly." Reeves rubbed her temples. "Until your photo, we'd found nothing. Not a single trace." Ms. Lang swallowed hard. "What now?" "We're quietly investigating. If Noah's being held somewhere, We don't want to spook whoever has him. Reeves fixed her with an intense gaze. Meanwhile, I need you to be my eyes and ears. Something connected Noah to your field trip. Someone might have brought him. On her drive home, Ms. Lang's mind raced through possibilities. Had Noah somehow followed them? Was he living near the Natural History Center? Neither explanation felt right. She thought of Eli Ward again, his nervous behavior, his isolation. It was just intuition, but something about the boy felt connected to this mystery. At home, Ms. Lang dug through her files until she found Eli's student information. Parents, Catherine and James Ward. Address, 422 Sycamore Lane. Transferred to Westridge just this year. She hesitated only briefly before searching online for James Ward Pinehaven. The results made her sink into her chair. James Ward had worked for Mercer Construction until 2 years ago. The owner, Gregory Mercer, Noah's father, had publicly accused him of theft, though charges were never filed. The timing aligned perfectly with Noah's disappearance. Her phone rang, startling her. Detective Reeves's number flashed on the screen. Ms. Lang? We found something. After enhancing the photo further, we noticed something written on Noah's hand. It looks like an address, partial, but readable. Her voice tightened. It's in your school district. 422 Sycamore Lane. Eli Ward's address. Ms. Lang's mouth went dry. Detective, I think I know who might be involved. There's a student in my class. Eli Ward. Reeves finished. We're putting surveillance on the house tonight. Whatever you do, don't approach the family or tip them off. This just became a lot more serious than a mysterious photo. As Ms. Lang hung up, her computer chimed with a school email notification. It was from Eli Ward's account, sent just minutes ago. The subject line made her blood freeze. About Noah. The message contained just 4 words. He wasn't supposed to show. Ms. Lang's hands trembled as she stared at Eli's email. She forwarded it immediately to Detective Reeves with a brief message. Just received this from Eli Ward. Something's happening. Sleep was impossible. She arrived at school early the next morning, hoping to catch Eli before classes began. The hallways echoed with her footsteps as she unlocked her classroom and waited, watching the door with growing anxiety. The first bell rang. Students filtered in. No Eli. Has anyone seen Eli today? She asked casually as the second bell signaled the start of class. Jenna raised her hand. I saw him in the parking lot earlier. He was talking to his dad. He looked upset. Ms. Lang's stomach clenched. Had the Wards suspected something? Had they seen the surveillance? She forced herself to proceed with the lesson while secretly texting Detective Reeves under her desk. 20 minutes into class, the door creaked open. Eli slipped in, head down, and took his seat without a word. Ms. Lang noticed immediately. His right eye was swollen, a faint bruise forming beneath it. Eli, see me after class, please, she said softly as she passed his desk. He didn't look up, just nodded almost imperceptibly. When the other students left for their next period, Eli remained seated, his gaze fixed on his notebook where he was drawing what appeared to be the same house from before, the one with the separate structure behind it. Eli? Ms. Lang pulled a chair beside his desk. What happened to your eye? Basketball, he mumbled. Hit myself with my elbow. The lie was as transparent as glass, but Ms. Lang nodded. About your email last night. Eli's head snapped up, panic flashing across his face. I didn't send any email, he said quickly, too quickly. Eli, it's okay. Ms. Lang kept her voice gentle. If you know something about Noah Mercer. The boy flinched violently at the name, knocking his pencil to the floor. When he bent to retrieve it, Ms. Lang noticed what looked like finger-shaped bruises on his wrist, partially hidden by his sleeve. I don't know any Noah, he whispered, but his voice cracked on the name. Your email said he wasn't supposed to show. What did that mean, Eli? The boy's breathing quickened, his eyes darting to the door as if calculating an escape. I have to go. I'll be late for math. I can write you a pass. Ms. Lang countered. Eli, if you're in trouble, or if someone else is in trouble, I can help. That's my job. Something in her words seemed to reach him. His shoulders slumped slightly, the rigid posture of fear giving way to exhaustion. For a moment, she thought he might speak, might finally open up about whatever secret he was carrying. Instead, he grabbed his backpack and bolted from the room. During her lunch break, Ms. Lang headed to the guidance office. Mrs. Ochoa, the school counselor, was just finishing her sandwich when Ms. Lang knocked on her open door. Got a minute to talk about Eli Ward? Ms. Lang asked. Mrs. Ochoa nodded, gesturing to a chair. Been worried about that one since he transferred in. Barely speaks during our check-ins. Do you have any background information? Family situation? The counselor tilted her head. Why the sudden interest? Ms. Lang chose her words carefully. He seems more withdrawn lately. And today he came in with what looked like a black eye. Mrs. Ochoa's expression darkened. She pulled Eli's file from her cabinet and flipped through it. Not much here. Parents declined the standard psychological evaluation when he transferred. Said he'd been through enough assessments at his previous school. She continued scanning. Oh, here's something interesting. There's a note about a foster placement that fell through about 2 years ago. Foster placement? According to this, the Wards were approved to take in a foster child briefly. Started the process, did the home visits, but then something happened and the placement was terminated. Records are sealed, probably a minor involved. Ms. Lang's heart raced. 2 years ago, exactly when Noah disappeared. Would there be any way to access those records? Mrs. Ochoa shook her head. Not without a court order. Why? What are you thinking? Before Ms. Lang could respond, her phone buzzed with a text from Detective Reeves. Need to speak with you ASAP. Can you come to the station after school? At the police station, Detective Reeves led Ms. Lang to a small conference room where surveillance photos were spread across the table. We've been watching the Ward residence, Reeves explained. Nothing unusual during the day, but last night, around 2 a.m., we captured this. She pointed to a grainy image showing James Ward carrying what looked like grocery bags to the structure behind their house, the same one Eli had been drawing. It's a shed, Reeves continued. Heavily secured. Motion-activated lights, 3 locks on the door. Far more security than typical for garden equipment. You think Noah's in there? Ms. Lang whispered. We're gathering evidence for a search warrant. But we need to move carefully. If Noah is being held there, we can't risk spooking the Wards. Ms. Lang took a deep breath. Eli has bruises today. A black eye, marks on his wrist. And the school counselor mentioned something about a foster placement that fell through 2 years ago. Detective Reeves nodded grimly. The pieces are coming together. Tomorrow, we'll have enough for a warrant. Until then, I need to make sure Eli's safe too. Ms. Lang interrupted. Something's very wrong in that house. As she left the station, Ms. Lang noticed a car following her, a dark sedan keeping a consistent distance. When she turned onto her street, it continued straight ahead. Inside her house, she double-checked the locks before settling at her desk to review Eli's schoolwork, searching for any clues she might have missed. In his most recent notebook, behind a science assignment, she found something that made her breath catch. A carefully drawn map of what appeared to be his neighborhood, with an X marking what could only be the shed. And in childish handwriting beneath it, 2 words. Help him. Morning arrived with a thin drizzle that turned the world gray. Ms. Lang drove to school with Eli's notebook safely tucked in her bag, her mind racing with possibilities, none of them good. She'd barely slept, startling at every creak and shadow, wondering if the dark sedan would return. As students filed into her classroom, she noted with dismay that Eli's seat remained empty. The minutes ticked by with no sign of him. When attendance was due, she marked him absent, her concern growing by the hour. During her free period, Ms. Lang made a decision she knew could cost her job if handled wrongly. She drove to Sycamore Lane, slowing as she approached number 422. The Ward house looked unassuming, a beige split level with neatly trimmed hedges and fall decorations on the porch. Nothing outwardly sinister. But her eyes were drawn to the backyard, where a large shed stood behind a privacy fence. Unlike the well-maintained house, the fence showed signs of recent reinforcement, newer planks interspersed with weathered ones, making it impossible to see through. As she idled across the street, an elderly woman emerged from the neighboring house, walking a small terrier. Ms. Lang seized the opportunity, parking and approaching with a friendly wave. "Excuse me," she called. "I'm Ms. Lang, Eli Ward's teacher. He's absent today and wasn't feeling well yesterday. I was dropping off some assignments, but no one seems to be home." The woman, Mrs. Porter, according to her mailbox, regarded Ms. Lang with unexpected wariness. "You're Eli's teacher? Poor boy hardly ever speaks when I see him. He's very quiet at school too." Ms. Lang agreed, then ventured carefully. "I've noticed he seems anxious lately." Mrs. Porter glanced toward the Ward house, then back at Ms. Lang. She lowered her voice. "Between us, there's something not right over there. Nighttime noises, not arguing, mind you. Something else." She hesitated. "Crying sometimes. A child's voice, but not Eli's. James always says it's just their dog, but dogs don't cry like that." Ms. Lang's skin prickled. "Have you ever seen anyone else at the house? Besides the family?" The woman shook her head. "Not exactly, but—" She leaned closer. "Sometimes, late at night, I see a shadow moving behind that fence. Small, like a child. James installed those motion lights, said it was for security. But I think it's to keep track of someone. Have you told anyone about this? Who'd believe in old woman's ghost stories?" Mrs. Porter sighed. "Besides, the last time I mentioned the noises to Catherine, Eli's mother, she got so upset. Said I was imagining things, that it was just Eli having nightmares." She frowned. "But I know what I heard. And it wasn't nightmares." Ms. Lang's phone buzzed. Detective Reeves. "Got the warrant. Meeting officers at the Ward house in 30 minutes. Where are you?" Heart racing, she texted back. "Already here. Eli didn't come to school. Speaking with neighbor who reports hearing a child crying from backyard structure." The response was immediate. "Stay there. Do not approach the house." Ms. Lang thanked Mrs. Porter and returned to her car, watching the house with growing dread. 20 tense minutes later, 3 unmarked police cars and Detective Reeves' sedan pulled up, followed by a social services vehicle. Reeves approached Ms. Lang first. "James Ward left for work an hour ago. Mrs. Ward should be home alone with their dog, according to surveillance. No sign of Eli." The officers approached the house methodically, 2 circling to cover the back entrance. Mrs. Porter watched from her porch, her terrier barking excitedly. Ms. Lang held her breath as Detective Reeves knocked on the front door. No answer. They knocked again, louder. Still nothing. One of the officers from the back radioed in. "Movement in the shed. Someone's in there." Everything accelerated. Officers positioned themselves around the property, weapons drawn. Reeves used a bullhorn. "Catherine Ward, this is the police. We have a warrant to search the premises. Open the door now." The front door finally cracked open. Catherine Ward peered out, her face pale and drawn. "What's happening? Why are you here?" While officers entered the house with Catherine, Ms. Lang watched 2 others approach the shed with Detective Reeves. The padlocks presented only a brief obstacle before they were broken open. The door swung wide. From her vantage point, Ms. Lang couldn't see inside, but she saw Detective Reeves' posture change immediately, shoulders tensing, hand dropping to her weapon. One officer rushed back toward the house while another spoke urgently into his radio. Minutes stretched like hours. Finally, Reeves emerged, her face grim. She walked directly to Ms. Lang. "We found evidence someone's been living in there. A sleeping bag, books, canned food. But no one's inside right now." "Noah?" "Can't confirm yet, but there are drawings signed with his name. And—" she hesitated. "DNA samples are being taken. Hair, fingerprints. Enough to prove he was there recently. But where is he now? Ms. Lang whispered. Before Reeves could answer, shouting erupted from inside the house. An officer appeared at the door, waving urgently. We found something. Basement storage room. Hidden entrance. Ms. Lang and Detective Reeves rushed toward the house. In the kitchen, Catherine Ward sat rigid at the table, her eyes vacant, repeating softly. James said it was for the best. James said he deserved it. Downstairs, officers had pushed aside a bookshelf revealing a small door. Inside was a tiny room with a mattress on the floor. On the wall, calendar days had been meticulously crossed out, over 700 of them. And on the mattress lay a note, the handwriting childish but clear. Eli showed me the truth. I'm going home. Noah. Beside it was a Westridge Middle School field trip permission slip, carefully forged. He's been here, one officer confirmed, holding up a strand of hair. Recently. But where is he now? And where's the ward boy? Ms. Lang suddenly understood with crystal clarity. The field trip. Eli must have sneaked Noah onto the bus, disguised him somehow. She pulled out her phone, checking the photo again. That's why Noah appears in the picture. Eli was trying to get him seen, to get him help. But why would Eli disappear now? Detective Reeves wondered aloud. Ms. Lang's mind raced. If Eli had helped Noah escape, James Ward would have known exactly who to blame when he discovered Noah missing. We need to find Eli, she said urgently. I think he's in danger too. The Ward house transformed into a crime scene within hours. Evidence technicians combed through every room while Detective Reeves interrogated Catherine Ward in the kitchen. Ms. Lang, still processing the horror of what they'd discovered, sat nearby, hoping her presence as Eli's teacher might help extract crucial information. Catherine's facade had crumbled entirely. Between sobs, a disturbing story emerged. It started with the accusations, she whispered, staring at her trembling hands. Greg Mercer publicly humiliated James, said he stole equipment worth thousands. Everyone believed him. Who wouldn't trust the great Greg Mercer over my husband? Bitterness laced her words. James lost his job. Contractors blacklisted him. We were drowning in debt, about to lose our house. That doesn't explain kidnapping a child, Detective Reeves said coldly. Catherine shook her head. We never meant to keep him. It just happened. She looked up, her eyes pleading for understanding she wouldn't receive. The night Noah showed up on our doorstep, we'd just been approved as foster parents. We needed the money, you see. Ms. Lang leaned forward. Noah came to you voluntarily? He was running away. There'd been a huge fight at his house. Greg had been drinking, said horrible things to the boy. Catherine twisted a tissue between her fingers. Noah was crying, said he never wanted to go back. We were going to call the police, but then James got this. Look. He said it was perfect, justice. Mercer had taken everything from us, now we had something of his. The room fell silent as the weight of her confession settled. So you kept him prisoner for 2 years, Reeves stated flatly. While his parents thought he was finished. It wasn't like that at first, Catherine insisted. We told Noah his parents didn't want him anymore, showed him fake news stories about how they'd stopped looking. He was so young, so trusting. Tears streamed down her face. James made him write the runaway note. Said it was better this way. And the foster care paperwork? Ms. Lang asked, remembering Mrs. Ochoa's mention of sealed records. Cancelled once we had Noah. We told the agency we'd changed our minds. Catherine stared blankly at the wall. Noah lived in the house those first months. Eli was told he was a foster brother, but that it was a family secret no one could know about. When did you move him to the shed? Reeves demanded. After he tried to escape the first time. James said it was safer, for everyone. Catherine's voice dropped to a whisper. That's when Eli started changing. He'd sneak food to Noah, bring him books. They became like real brothers. But Eli grew more withdrawn, stopped bringing friends home. Ms. Lang's mind flashed to Eli's solitary behavior at school, his drawings of the house with the separate structure. He'd been carrying this secret for 2 years, watching his parents imprison an innocent child. "Where are they now, Catherine?" Reeves pressed. "Where did Eli take Noah?" "I don't know," she sobbed. "James found out yesterday, the shed empty, Noah gone. He was furious, confronted Eli, but Eli wouldn't say anything. That's when..." She stopped abruptly. "That's when he hurt Eli," Ms. Lang finished quietly. "The black eye, the bruises." Catherine nodded miserably. "This morning, James said he was taking Eli to school, but they never came back. His phone's off. I've been trying to reach him all day." Detective Reeves stood suddenly, her chair scraping against the floor. "We need to find James Ward immediately. And we need to call the Mercers." Within the hour, Greg and Laura Mercer arrived at the police station, their faces etched with desperate hope and terror. Ms. Lang watched through a window as Detective Reeves explained the situation. Their son, missing for 2 years, had been found and lost again in the span of a day. Laura Mercer collapsed into her husband's arms upon hearing that Noah was alive. Greg's face contorted with rage when he learned who had taken his son. "Ward," he spat the name. "I knew he was unstable, but this..." He broke off, overwhelmed. All this time, Noah was less than 3 miles away. Ms. Lang approached cautiously. "Mr. Mercer, I need to ask about the night Noah disappeared. Catherine Ward mentioned an argument." Greg's expression darkened with shame. "I'd been drinking. Business problems, stress. I said things to Noah I've regretted every day since. Told him he was lazy, disappointing." His voice broke. "My last words to my son were angry ones. And that's why he ran to the Wards?" Ms. Lang asked. "The house is back up to the same woods," Laura explained quietly. "The boys knew each other from the neighborhood, though they weren't close. Noah must have just wandered and ended up there." Greg clenched his fists. "Ward manipulated a frightened 11-year-old boy. Convinced him his own parents didn't want him anymore. But Eli tried to help him," Ms. Lang interjected. "He risked everything to get Noah on that field trip, to be seen." As they spoke, an officer burst into the room. "We've got a possible location on James Ward's phone. It just pinged near Lakeside Park." Detective Reeves grabbed her jacket. "That's by the old boat launch. Isolated this time of year." The implications hung heavy in the air. If James Ward felt cornered, what might he do to the boys who had ruined his revenge? "I'm coming with you," Greg Mercer insisted. "That's my son out there. And my student," Ms. Lang added firmly. The detective hesitated only briefly before nodding. "Stay in the car when we arrive. This situation is volatile enough." As they rushed toward the vehicles, Ms. Lang's phone chimed with a text message from an unknown number. "Ms. Lang, it's Eli. I have Noah. Dad found us. Boat dock. Please help." She showed the message to Detective Reeves, her hands shaking. "He's reaching out. There's still time." The race to Lakeside Park began, sirens wailing into the gathering dusk. In the back seat, Ms. Lang silently prayed they wouldn't be too late. Lakeside Park descended into darkness as police vehicles converged on the boat launch area, lights extinguished to maintain the element of surprise. Through binoculars, Detective Reeves spotted James Ward's sedan parked near the weathered dock. Beyond it, a lone figure paced at the edge of the water. 2 smaller shadows huddled together on one of the moored pontoons. "I see the boys," Reeves whispered. "They're alive." Ms. Lang's heart thundered in her chest as officers took positions around the perimeter. Greg Mercer, required to stay in the car, gripped the dashboard so hard his knuckles turned white. "Ward is unstable," Reeves warned the tactical team. "Approach with extreme caution. Our priority is the safety of those children." Ms. Lang watched, barely breathing, as officers closed in silently. But something went wrong. A twig snapped, a radio crackled at the wrong moment, and James Ward spun around, spotting the approaching figures. In a flash, he was on the dock, yanking one of the boys to his feet, Eli, recognizable even at this distance by his slight frame and oversized hoodie. "Stay back!" Ward shouted, his voice echoing across the water. I swear I'll. He never finished the threat. In a move that left everyone stunned, Eli twisted violently from his father's grasp and shoved him with surprising strength. James Ward, caught off balance, toppled sideways off the narrow dock with a startled cry, plunging into the dark water. Chaos erupted. Officers rushed forward as Noah grabbed Eli's arm, pulling him back from the edge. James surfaced, flailing and sputtering, only to find himself surrounded by officers with weapons drawn. Before Ms. Lang could process what was happening, Greg Mercer bolted from the car, sprinting toward the dock. No one could have stopped him as he reached the pontoon where Noah stood, frozen in disbelief. Dad? Noah's voice, cracking with emotion, carried across the water. Father and son collided in an embrace so powerful it nearly sent them both into the lake. Greg's sobs mingled with Noah's as they clung to each other, the weight of 2 years of separation dissolving in a moment of pure reunion. Ms. Lang made her way to Eli, who stood apart from the emotional scene, shoulders hunched, eyes downcast. Without a word, she wrapped her arms around him. At first, he remained rigid, then gradually melted into the embrace, his thin body shaking with silent tears. You saved him, she whispered. You were so brave. I should have done it sooner, Eli murmured, his voice barely audible. I was scared. You're just a child, Ms. Lang reminded him gently. This was never your responsibility. Later, at the hospital where both boys were taken for examination, the full story emerged through gentle questioning. Noah, physically unharmed but severely malnourished, recounted his captivity in halting sentences, often looking to Eli for support. They told me my parents had stopped looking, he explained, his mother's hand clutched tightly in his. Showed me fake news stories. After a while, I believed them. Eli, diagnosed with trauma-induced anxiety and bearing the marks of his father's violence, revealed how the deception had slowly unraveled. I found real articles online about Noah's disappearance, he said. Realized my parents lied. But I was scared of what Dad would do if I told. He glanced at Noah. I started taking my dad's phone at night to show Noah the truth. We planned for months. The field trip had been their opportunity, Eli smuggling Noah onto the bus with a stolen hoodie and forged permission slip, positioning him perfectly for the photo Ms. Lang would inevitably take. We knew you'd notice, Eli told Ms. Lang. You always notice everything. The legal aftermath moved swiftly. James and Catherine Ward were charged with kidnapping, child endangerment, and a host of related crimes. James faced additional charges of assault against Eli. Both were denied bail, deemed flight risks and dangers to the community. Eli, with no other family willing to take him, faced an uncertain future until Laura Mercer made a stunning announcement. We want Eli to come live with us, she told the social worker, her husband nodding in agreement beside her. He saved our son. He's family now. 3 months later, Ms. Lang sat in her classroom after hours, grading papers in the peaceful silence she treasured. A knock at the door interrupted her concentration. She looked up to find Noah and Eli standing in the doorway, matching backpacks slung over their shoulders. We wanted to give you this, Noah said, stepping forward to place a small wrapped package on her desk. Inside was a framed photograph, not the original field trip photo that had started everything, but a new one. Noah and Eli stood side by side outside the Mercer home, grinning widely, with Greg and Laura behind them. A family, rebuilt from the ashes of tragedy. I'm starting here next week, Noah explained, a hint of nervousness in his voice. Mom and Dad thought it would be good, being around other kids again. Eli's been helping me catch up. Ms. Lang smiled, blinking back tears. I saved you a seat. Right next to Eli. The boys exchanged glances, a silent communication born of shared trauma and healing. See you Monday, Ms. Lang, they said in unison, turning to leave. As they walked down the hallway, Ms. Lang noticed their easy camaraderie. 2 survivors, learning to be children again. She placed the new photo on her desk, next to her computer where the original field trip image had first revealed its impossible truth. Sometimes being seen was more than just appearing in a photograph. Sometimes, it was the difference between being lost and being found.